From the earliest of times, we've sought to know what the future holds, to gain an edge over fate. From fortune tellers to Nostradamus, predicting the future has perplexed and mesmerized us for thousands of years. Have the answers been in front of us the whole time, locked away in one of the earliest texts known to man, the Old Testament? Is there a code that exists in the Bible that clearly outlines past and future events? The search for that code has challenged brilliant minds throughout history, including Sir Isaac Newton. But not until the advent of modern technology have researchers claimed that they unlocked its secrets. Its predictions are controversial and chilling. Is the Bible code a time lock with a digital key? Is it a statistical anomaly that cannot be explained? Or is it the world's first computer program? Has the Bible code been set for deciphering today in order to give us the answers we seek, or warn us of events to come? It is a code that has perplexed, consumed, and frustrated theologians, researchers, and mathematicians for hundreds of years.
The world's filled with codes, and codes beckon us because they suggest that actually life's not full of sounds and furies signifying nothing. Codes say it's full of sounds and furies signifying everything. That's the code.
The earliest code researchers date back to the 12th century, when it is believed that rabbis began searching for the signature of God in the Bible. They believed that by finding hidden messages in the Old Testament, they could find the Word of God speaking to them. Spending every waking hour finding puzzles to solve in the Great Book, their research unleashed a curiosity for generations to come.
The whole story starts in the medieval period, where you have these great mystics, Kabbalists, who make the following claim. Everything that ever was, is, and will be is found in the Torah, is found in this sacred writ, which we call the Bible.
And supposedly they did it from 2,000 years ago, and little by little they developed it.
For the mystics, the Bible isn't a text. The Bible is a living organism. It's alive. It's a mystic divine being. It participates in divinity. It's not written by God. It's of God.
In the 18th century, one of the greatest biblical scholars, the genius of Vilna, or the Vilna Gaon as he was known, stated, "All that has happened or will happen is in the Torah." What he meant by this has been the subject of great debate. Some believe he was stating that the Bible is the guide to life. Others believe that he was stating that codes exist within the Bible that will reveal the secrets of the universe.
Elijah of Vilna was a very careful text reader. He was about structures in texts. He was about hidden moments in texts. He was about, the jots and tittles on top of the letter and their interpretation. So for him, thinking in code form is something that he just naturally did.
The next significant code researcher was scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Newton, who was devoutly religious, wanted to prove the truth of the Bible using scientific means. Newton learned Hebrew and tried to find codes in the text in order to prove the validity of the Bible. He spent many years working to break the code locked in the Bible, but the code remained beyond reach.
It is very interesting that Sir Isaac Newton, who wasn't a Jew, also believed that there is a possible code, and he spent a lot of time trying to find it.
There's a lot of manuscripts, I understand, of Isaac Newton looking for codes in the Torah.
There are probably boxes of his research at Cambridge University in England, but I don't think anyone knows.
Code research seemed to lie dormant until the years shortly before World War II. when a rabbi in Prague with no scientific background to speak of, Chaim Michael Dovber Weissmandl, became the first modern researcher to claim that a detailed code existed within the text of the Bible. Weissmandl then took on the centuries-old challenge of searching for these codes. His quest would have to wait. After being rounded up by the Germans and escaping from a train bound for Auschwitz, Weissmandl became a hero by attempting to save almost 1 million Jews from Nazi death camps. After the war, he resumed his search for the Bible code and ultimately succeeded where prior researchers had failed. Weissmandl painstakingly wrote out the letters in the Old Testament by hand on hundreds of index cards, and by using a very basic letter skip pattern called equidistant letter sequencing, or ELS, found the word Torah at the beginning of each of the 5 books of the Old Testament.
Well, Rabbi Weissmandl was responsible for introducing the codes in the modern era.
What he looked for was just this phenomena of ELSs, of equidistant letter spacing. He didn't have computers, so he couldn't determine minimal ELSs.
He showed how starting with a letter at the beginning of Genesis, very close to the beginning of Genesis, if you count a certain number of letters, and then again, you spell out the word Torah.
And it's amazing he found what he did, but it was all done by hand.
I cannot understand how he was able to discover the beautiful codes he did discover. He was a genius. I have no other explanation.
Weissmandl's discovery of codes in the Bible was miraculous, but researchers would have to wait for the advent of computers to truly succeed in breaking the code.
What happened in the gap between Weissmandl and contemporary computers? Why did contemporary computers reintroduce this whole notion in this whole kind of important and exciting way?
The code research could be done in a few million years without a computer, no problem. With a computer, we can find codes in a few seconds.
Computers are a divine wink. Hey, look at me again. See again. Look deeper. So of course, right, it makes perfect sense within that framework of internal spirit logic, right, to actually understand that computers are of course going to reveal some other notion of codes.
It would be impossible without the computer.
But what exactly is the Bible code, and how does it work?
Well, the Bible code is a claim that there are messages hidden in the text of the Bible that are different or in addition to the actual plain text of the Bible.
Cryptic messages, hidden messages, or words or phrases that appear when you don't read the Bible letter after letter, but you count intervals from one letter to another letter.
This claim is really what the Bible code is. It's the claim that there are hidden messages in the text of the Bible that can be extracted using ELSs.
The Bible code is unlocked by a computer program that reveals sequences of words in a contained, organized pattern. Keywords are input into the computer program, which then goes through the entire text of the Bible using a series of letter skips, also called equidistant letter sequencing, or ELS, in order to find the word. It is important to note that the shorter the computer-generated letter skip, the more incredible the finding is. If the word is found, the code researcher then goes to the place in the Bible where the word is located. This area is called the grid, or matrix. The grid is then carefully examined for other words that relate to the word found by the computer.
We have 3 ELSs here: order, food, and roses. We have equal distance between order every 10 letters, equal distance between food every 10 letters, and equal distance between roses every 11 letters backwards. And this is how we do all the searches in the computer, except we use Hebrew instead of English.
Well, the rules are pretty flexible. You can actually start with any letter you like, and you can choose any gap you like. The main thing is that once you've chosen a particular number of letters to skip, you have to stick with that same number as you spell out the word. Sometimes it's a meaningful word or phrase, sometimes it's just gibberish.
Lithuanian-born mathematician Eliyahu Rips is regarded as the modern-day discoverer of the Bible code. In 1985, Rips, along with his team of researchers, developed a computer program to find hidden messages in the Bible.
I learned about the codes in the late 70s. The book from which we started to be aware of the existence of the code is a book which was published by the students of late Rabbi Weissmandel. I immediately see that there is something very interesting which should be studied further.
Picking up where Weissmandel left off, Rips and his team began to work on a computer program that would essentially search for simple patterns locked within the Bible. The results were immediate. At first, simple phrases began to appear. Then it became obvious to Rips that they had unlocked something potentially earth-shattering. To prove their discovery of the Bible code, Rips and his team conducted 2 detailed experiments and wrote a paper that would turn the scientific and religious worlds upside down. To test the code's validity, researchers listed the names of prominent rabbis in history together with their dates of birth or death. Then they searched for them as ELSs in the Old Testament. The results were chilling and gave even stronger proof of the code's existence.
Both of those experiments really were groundbreaking. The rabbi's experiment was with dates of death was published in Statistical Science.
Statistical Science, one of the world's leading scientific journals, published the paper in 1994. It immediately ignited a firestorm of controversy.
It was obviously an unusual paper, and the obvious concern for all of us was that if we were to publish it, that could be interpreted as a stamp of scientific approval. And we were concerned because we didn't really want that interpretation.
Rips and his team had finally conquered the centuries-old challenge of finding a code in the Bible. But what is contained within the code? What is the code trying to tell us? In 1994, Statistical Science, a leading scientific journal, published research that rocked the scientific world. The research stated that a code accessible only by computers existed within the Bible.
9/11, it was there, or it wasn't there. But let's assume it was, right? You know, Rabin's assassination. Why are people excited, right, to find even the possibility that actually this is encoded? Or let me put it differently. Why is there a deep part of the human being that wants to believe that the codes are true? Simple and correct, because actually the human being wants to believe and deserves to believe, and I actually think the human being's right about it, that actually life's meaningful, that it actually matters.
I keep seeing current news stories appearing in statistically impossible combinations, as well as patterns, or what I would call watermarks. If you want to tell if a dollar bill was real, you check the watermark on it. And we have found watermarks in the Torah.
With the discovery of the Bible code, researchers rushed to see what messages were locked inside. As they dug deeper, prediction after prediction was found, from the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk to the recent SARS epidemic. Are these code findings in the Bible merely a recounting of history, or is it more? Researchers who have followed Rip's lead have found a multitude of fascinating word patterns within the Bible. Codes reveal words found near each other in the text, describing significant events that have shaped the course of history.
We can do matrices every day on historical events where we know the facts and we can just look at the facts and develop the matrix.
There are many stories of Torah code researchers finding something by chance. That is, they were not doing an experiment, but they were looking at a table, and they happened to have seen in the table some different keywords.
What the code reveals about world history is compelling. Code researchers have uncovered many historical names and events hidden within the Bible. The odds of finding these historical relationships exceed any mathematical possibility of chance. The Bible code reveals Shakespeare and some of his greatest works in the code sequence Shakespeare, presented on stage, Macbeth, Hamlet. The advent of flight is uncovered by the Bible code with the words Wright brothers and airplane found next to each other. Man's pioneering spirit can also be found in a code pattern that depicts Apollo 11's historic mission in the code sequence Man on Moon, Spaceship. The name of the legendary French emperor and significant events from his life are found within the same grid. Napoleon, France, Waterloo, and Elba.
The nature of this text is such that it encodes levels upon levels, layers upon layers of information. There's an infinitude, right, of meaning levels. Codes are but one of those infinite meanings.
Names of many of the world's great scientists and the impact of their discoveries have also been found hidden within the Bible. Thomas Edison's discovery of electricity and his invention of the light bulb are found. Edison, electricity, light bulb. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, which revolutionized modern science, was discovered in a grid which contained the words Einstein, science, and the complete phrase, he overturned present reality. Even the name of early code researcher Isaac Newton and his theory on gravity are found intersecting. The code has also revealed social events that changed the course of history. The devastating economic and social impact of the stock market crash of 1929 can be seen with the phrases economic collapse, depression, stocks, next to the year 1929. The triumphs and tragedies of war are also found hidden in the ancient text. The birth of America, with the words American Revolution in 1776. The downfall of the Tsars and the birth of Communist Russia are found in the same grid with Revolution in Russia, 1917. Perhaps the most compelling arguments for the Bible code's existence are the hidden messages speaking to one of the most horrific events in modern history, World War II.
There are many codes with Hitler. There's a code of Hitler, a Nazi.
The names of key figures and phrases are clearly outlined in a consistent pattern. The rise of Adolf Hitler can be found with the words Hitler, Nazi and enemy. Within the same grid, the evil Hitler promulgated is also found with the added phrases evil man and slaughter. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor is found with the phrases, it will strike them, to destroy, to annihilate. In the same sequence, America's entry into the war was found, World War. The code even spells out with startling clarity America's use of atomic weapons against Japan. The phrase atomic holocaust and Japan occur in the same grid as the specific year, 1945.
Taken together, there's no way that this could be a randomly put together text.
The 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy and the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death are highlighted in three formations. The first is President Kennedy, to die, Dallas. The second names Kennedy's assassin, Oswald, marksman, name of assassin who will assassinate. Oswald's name is again present in a code sequence that depicts the events surrounding his death at the hands of Jack Ruby. Oswald, Ruby, and he will kill the assassin. The name of Robert Kennedy can be found in a grid next to his assassin. R.F. Kennedy, S. Sirhan. Within the same sequence, the code seems to suggest that Robert Kennedy would have become President of the United States in 1968 with the addition of the phrase, second ruler will be killed. As intriguing as the events predicted by the Bible code are, they give us no clue as to the code's origins. The idea of who exactly created the code is as controversial as the code itself. Was the Bible encoded by God, or was there someone else? Through the use of computers, the Bible code was unlocked. But what is the code's origin? Was the Old Testament encoded by God for us to unlock today as a guide to our past and possible prediction of days to come? Some believe the origins of the Bible code are even more fantastic than the code itself. Was the Bible, as some believe, encoded by extraterrestrials who visited our planet eons ago, leaving behind a roadmap of our destiny?
For a person who does not hold that there exists a God, the text didn't come from divinity. So it came from outer space.
In my mind, it's an impossibility because if aliens did it, then they would have to know minute detail about a huge number of events throughout history, not major events of a country, but individual events related to individual people, because there are Bible code matrices on people. So how would a time traveler or some sort of advanced alien know all these specific details about individuals?
The statistics cannot address the question of who put it there. The statistics can only address the question, is it there?
It's a clever, not very insightful way of explaining. It means that you can write books, as one person has, and not commit yourself to religion, which is not so popular, and get the best of both worlds. The same people who brought you Elvis's return to Nessie now bring you a prediction of 9/11. It's great marketing. Most people, hopefully, will not pay too much attention to that.
I don't even think there's the slightest possibility that aliens seeded the earth to put us here, or aliens wrote the Bible with the Bible code encrypted in it.
The Bible code even references itself in the phrases Bible code. They encoded the Torah and more. A possible clue to its origin is reflected in the code sequence, which states it was made by computer and the writing of God engraved on the tablets.
The concept that it was kept hidden until the last days when there were computers makes logical sense to me.
I think that there's a choice of about 3 possibilities. One is to completely dismiss it and show somehow that it's false. The second is to assume space aliens gave us the Torah, and the third is to assume that a supernatural being gave us the Torah. I don't think there's a lot of other choice. But it's a gradual process that people have to go through when they search the codes and search the meaning behind the codes.
What do the codes try and prove? The codes try and prove that this Torah, this document, was given by God at Sinai. Let me ask you a question. Let's say that someone sets you up on a date. Okay, great setup. And you're gonna meet them at, I don't know, the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. And you get there, she's not there, but she left a note. And the note says, Dear Matthew, I was here 3,000 years ago. Right? Unfortunately, you weren't here, but I left you a note. And since I really love you, I've left you instructions for living, which will show you how to live the rest of your life.
There's a school of thought that this phenomenon is just so overwhelming and the probabilities are so great against this happening by chance that a reasonable human being understands that's not by chance. There had to be a divine author of these codes, and more than that we can't say.
So this is something that's created by an all-powerful factor. We call this all-powerful factor God.
I believe in God personally, and I don't believe he holds back from people. And if you're following his will and you're asking for wisdom and he would help you, and if it was a person 3,000 years ago, then I'm sure God would have allowed him to develop the Bible code very far. He would have had to do it manually.
But despite the code's startling accuracy, skeptics say it does not exist. Did the Bible code predict key historical events, or is it essentially a statistical anomaly? Or is it little more than a clever parlor trick? Although the Bible code has revealed past events with startling accuracy, some skeptics believe that code predictions can be found in any book of similar length to the Old Testament. Several scholars have taken up the challenge of refuting the Bible code by attempting to scientifically invalidate the tests used to prove the code's existence. An examination of the classic Moby Dick revealed a message of Princess Diana's death within its text. While the opposition to the code's existence is based on sound scientific study and experiments, they do not explain certain events that have actually been predicted before they occurred. The prediction that leading code proponents view as evidence of the code's validity was discovered by two different researchers, Moshe Katz and Michael Drosnin. It is the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin.
There were instances that some future events were successfully predicted. The most famous case is the prediction or the warning of Prime Minister Rabin assassination, which was given by Michael Drosnin.
At the time that this occurred, Yitzhak Rabin was the prime minister of Israel. In this case, they put in Yitzhak Rabin, and they saw the verse that talks about an assassin will assassinate, or a murderer will murder. And it occurred in very close proximity. They both were alarmed and sent letters to the security people, to the prime minister's office, in the hopes that some extra precautions might be taken so that this event would not happen. But it did happen.
Despite efforts to warn Rabin of an attempt on his life, Rabin was assassinated in 1995. But leading proponents of the code debate whether the code was a warning or simply a message of one of countless possible outcomes.
It is a very basic question. We do not know whether it was a warning or it means that the things necessarily would happen this way, or maybe this is one of the possible variants of the future discussed in the Torah.
One confident code researcher, feeling that the prediction of the Rabin assassination dispelled any doubt of the code's predictions, issued a public challenge. Find the prediction of a prime minister's assassination in Moby Dick. Professor Brendan McKay is a leading figure among those opposed to the legitimacy of the Bible code. He has done extensive research on the subject and accepted the challenge.
So this prompted me to find Moby Dick and start looking for assassinations of prime ministers and other famous people, and I found quite a few. For example, I found Indira Gandhi, Leon Trotsky, Martin Luther King. I have one here. You can see the assassination of President Kennedy. In the vertical red letters, you can see the word Kennedy. Across the base, you can see the words in the plain text where it says, "He shall be killed." In the green letters, we have the phrase, "in cars," which is a very appropriate phrase to find connected with the assassination of JFK. So unfortunately, when I show pictures of codes and predictions of assassinations and other things in Moby Dick, there are a certain number of visitors to my webpage who decide that therefore Moby Dick was written by God as well as the Bible.
Through his research, McKay has come to his own conclusions.
It's a lot of nonsense. I guess you want a longer answer than that. Well, I've spent a very, very large amount of time studying this. We tried and we tried, we did experiment after experiment. What did we find? Nothing. So as far as we can see, there in fact is no evidence at all that the Bible codes are real.
And I have never heard of a single statistician, a trained PhD statistician, who believes in the Bible codes.
But there are code proponents who argue that the statistical chances of having certain words appear in distinct formations is so small that leaving it to chance is to ignore fundamental elements of statistics.
Look, you get a small probability in Moby Dick and you get a large probability in the Torah text. You see, it doesn't mean anything. This is not an experiment. This is a parlor trick. And McKay is nothing more than a magician.
We have found so many codes that are statistically off the charts that we've already shown that there's something here that couldn't have been random.
I believe that we've already come to the point where we've proven the Bible code is true. And the way we've done it is by developing very advanced matrices with sentences that exceed the possibility of chance even occurring in the universe. And once you do that, then you have proven the Bible code, and I think we've come to that point today.
Yet other researchers argue that statistical probabilities aside, we should look at the validity of the code in a different way.
Codes are very much not about, is this or that code right or wrong? Codes are about, is the possibility of codes a genuine possibility? And I would say it this way. If you believe that every code is right, and that this all works perfectly, and you can predict events perfectly, actually, you're a fool. If you think there's no codes, it's not a possibility. It's kind of a preposterous notion that there would be codes at all. Actually, you're missing something gorgeous about the depth of the world. You're not living in an encoded world. And to not live in an encoded world is actually to live in flatland. And flatland's actually not a great place to live.
However compelling the arguments of McKay and company that the codes don't exist, supporters of the Bible code point to more current examples of code predictions, ripped from today's headlines. What has the Bible code predicted about recent events? And what does it foretell of our future? While both supporters and detractors make compelling points about the validity of the Bible code, we cannot ignore that certain predictions in the Old Testament have come true. Some feel that the future is not known until it is the past. Others believe that if you know the correct questions to ask, the future can be foretold. If the Bible code can predict the future, what does the future hold for us? And is it written in stone? The code has made some astonishing predictions in the very recent past.
The Gore-Bush election, I was coming home and I passed a coffee shop that was selling newspapers, and they had the Israeli newspaper. And there in the headlines, I saw how the Hebrew is spelled for Gore and for Bush. And there was the date of the election in the Hebrew month system. And I just took those three words, I put it into my own programs, and comes out a very, 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 very tight matrix. I think it was like 4 rows by 5 columns with these 3 words, the day of the month and the month as one keyword, Gore as one keyword, and Bush as the other. And it was so compact that the probability of finding that in a monkey text population, monkey text means a population in which you have text of no codes at all, was something like 1 out of a few 100,000.
But it would be the events of September 11th that would make researchers go back to the Bible to see if it had been foretold. What they found was startling.
You do, in fact, discover unusually compact arrangements of these 3 words, plus many others that have to do with 9/11, including 9/11 itself, including the names of the hijackers, including many other descriptors. The building's falling, the building's melting, it's being destroyed, it's before everybody's eyes, and so on. And all of these occur within a very small area.
I did a matrix on the World Trade Center attack, and it has 30 terms that are complete sentences. The statistical odds of this matrix occurring are 1 chance in 10 to the 340th power.
The airplane knocked down the Twin Towers twice. Now, twice is just a word in the plain text.
This next example shows bin Laden with the words kills thousands of people and the word terror incident, as well as Twin Towers. What makes this chart extraordinary is the clustering involved. And you almost have to be in the research for a while before you can appreciate how close these words are. This is the only word for terror incident that's a skip of 2. It's the smallest skip in the Torah. This is one of the best of 3 meetings between twin and towers. Why should they come together in the same chart? And the answer we see over and over again is because there's an intention here.
One of the latest revelations of the Bible Code concerns the event that took place on February 1st, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster.
I'll start with a find from Professor Rips about Space Shuttle Columbia. Columbia, they will mourn, a devouring fire. Professor Rips did not see this red ELS. He showed it to a friend who immediately said, "This looks like a space shuttle. What if there was something interesting on this other wing?" And it's facing down, so this must be the left wing. And sure enough, it says, consumed by fire.
Even America's most recent war was predicted by the code. But can the code predict the future? Some code researchers have claimed that the Bible code makes the ultimate prediction, that the end of days might have begun, that the world will soon come to an end. The code predicted the devastating earthquake in Los Angeles in 1994. In that same code sequence, another great earthquake is predicted to hit Los Angeles in 2010. The code predicts the devastation of Earth by a comet in the year 2012. The code suggests that the recent rise in global terrorism could be a precursor to the coming of the end of days. Are these predictions of future catastrophic events, or do they merely raise the possibility of such developments? Some researchers caution against accepting any code as unchangeable.
As we see in this example, we have Al Gore in blue, and we have President in yellow. This was found by Professor Rips a year before the election. So he assumed that Al Gore was going to be president, or he thought perhaps he would be. And in fact, a few weeks into the Florida legal battles, Professor Rips found some additional words he thinks maybe in red. So, in fact, there's really no rule book to tell us what word to read first and what word to read second, and whether we're missing some words. Maybe we should be highlighting a word over here and over there. So we have no real way of knowing what we're looking at.
It's very difficult to do an accurate matrix on the future.
Predicting the future with the codes is a serious misuse of the whole topic, in my opinion, and it can't be done anyway.
You cannot use the Torah code to be looking for what stocks you should buy today so you can make money tomorrow, because it does not follow that everything that's in compact arrangement corresponds to something that's logically, historically related.
Doing matrices on the future should be no problem at all, except we know nothing to look for and we have to guess at everything. And when you do that, that opens the door to making mistakes. And so doing a matrix on the future, I think, is 100% possible, theoretically, but practically it's very difficult to do. So logically, if you can develop a matrix on a past event, then a future event is just a past event that hasn't occurred yet, because we don't know what to look for in the future matrix. So that's the limitation.
And we may be seeing only the tip of the iceberg, and that we have not yet been able to find in a systematic way all the different aspects of how it's encoded. That is the full description of the code. We're only seeing a piece of it here or a piece of it there.
If you believe the Bible and the Bible prophecies, it talks about a period of time called the end times, the latter days, the last days, where it's an ever-increasing battle between good and evil in the world. Terrorism, the SARS virus and other viruses and epidemics, those are all indicative of bad things happening. And the Bible predicts that these bad or evil things are going to happen. And the Bible code corroborates that message.
There's an entire tradition of specific predictions of the end of days. Now, the end of days is, of course, good news and bad news. It's bad news if it goes wrong. It's good news if it happens right. That is to say, what the end of days means is, it's just that the world as it is won't go on as it is forever. That's the whole thing. That's actually a pretty important idea. Because if you think that it's just going to be like that forever, you'll actually never try and change it. You'll never try and transform it. Right? So codes and predictive codes are an invitation to participate in shaping the future.
Many of the end-of-days code sequences revolve around the Middle East.
So I did a matrix on it, and I came up with, I think, 6 good terms that point to it happening, possibly. Very good evidence in my mind, though, towards the end of the year 5770. Now, that would be in the fall of 2010. If you know prophecy, though, you know that this end times or last days period is 7 years long. And at the beginning of that period is a peace treaty between Israel, and it doesn't really state who is the other people, the surrounding nations. The points of the peace treaty is that they're going to divide the land of Israel, they're going to divide the city of Jerusalem, and in return, Israel gets a guarantee of peace. Kind of what we're looking at today with the Group of Four and their roadmap. The Group of Four is the USA, the UN, the EU, and Russia. And they've come up with a roadmap to solve the Israeli-Palestinian problem. Now, doesn't what I just said sound like a peace treaty that would establish the Palestinian nation? I think it is. And if it is, then, and if that fall of 5770 in this end of days matrix is correct, then this peace treaty has to occur in the September-October timeframe of 2003, which is not very far away.
Whatever one believes, there is one certainty. We will never know if the predictions in these hidden messages are true until the events themselves are history. So if the world is coming to an end, we might never know.